animal. And they were roommates.
God, they were roommates.
What's up, happy hour heroes? I'm Charlie C, and this is Big Tone, and we are the top of everything. Counting them down. What's up, T?
What's up, Charlie? Good to be back. I'm ready for this one.
This is going to be interesting. This is like a little out of our, kind of out of our comfort zone, I'll say. Like we both, I think, did some research trying to figure this thing out. I mean, there's a lot of legends we heard of, but there's some in here I never heard of before. So today, we're counting down the top 10 urban legends.
Urban
Departure from
legends.
top 10 guitarists and top 10 running backs. Should be interesting to see what we got cooked up. But before we dive in, if you could please ring that bartender bell if you like what we're serving. There's a tip jar in our description. Give us a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe.
Please.
We passed a huge milestone. We passed 500 subscribers after 3 episodes. So that's pretty good, man. We thank you people very much for that. Also, if you can, check our other content. We post a ton of shorts highlighting our list. Besides the guys that we talk about, we put other guitarists in there that maybe we didn't get to, or that we considered, or even that maybe you guys, our faithful subscribers, suggested. So, and we also put links to like our Spotify playlist, or with the films, a letterbox. So if you're into that, if you're on letterbox, if you're in Spotify, we've got playlists in there you can check out. So please check that stuff out.
And thank you. It's been really helpful. Yeah.
All right. So urban legends, man. What makes an urban legend, right? A lot of them revolve around something real that happened once, then the stories grew and changed. Myths and fables that are often a cautionary tale or there's some kind of warning behind them. And today they're often passed around through like storytelling, like teens at parties and sleepovers and stuff. And that's where like a lot of the ones that I knew came from. A lot of times people with these urban legends, they would tell them as if it like happened to them or if it happened to their friend.
Right.
That was one of the things that we'd hear a lot when we were growing up. And I think, just generally speaking, a lot of them are rooted in some kind of truth, or some kind of real event. And then they just get distorted into these legends, morphed into something.
It turns into the telephone game, right? Where, remember the game as a kid where you start with a story and you got to tell it to the other person and then it goes down the line. And by the time it gets to the first person, the story's completely changed.
It changes, it morphs. People put their own little spin on it. Yeah, I remember hearing some of these when I was a kid. It was told to me like it actually happened to them. I know now it didn't because it was probably something that happened 50 years ago, but it's kind of cool. It added to the creep factor. It's like author's license. Like it's kind of, I'll allow it now. At first I was kind of like, that didn't really happen to them. But you know what? If they told it a different way, it wouldn't be as creepy. So that's like kind of a fireside thing you can do to kind of, it's allowed. It's allowed. So
and the funny thing is urban legends, I don't know if it's funny, but urban legends don't necessarily need to be scary, but the scary ones are the best ones. Like I'm thinking of, the urban in New Jersey, there's a urban legend about if you take your car to this hill and you're parked, it's kind of a downslope. There's apparently a legend that a little kid was killed there back in the 1800s by a carriage, and he'll tow your car, you pull your car backwards while you're sitting there. Not necessarily scary, but a legend therein.
And those are fun ones because I remember similar things to that, right? And there's something with gravity or the way the hill was built, right? And the car moves or something. And those are the fun ones because you and your friends like one night would like drive there and check it out. And there's one that we'll get into in another podcast, more scary haunted stories that actually are true. I don't know how true everything that happened in Amityville is, but of course we have our true story.
Yes.
We were forced to go to the Amityville Horror House as pledges in a fraternity, and we'll get into that story. But yeah,
that's a great story.
Those things are kind of fun to do.
Yeah, I think what we should do, Charlie, is dedicate one episode just to that story because there's a lot to unpack there. Stuff you and I haven't visited in 30, 35 years.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We did talk about it a little bit recently, just because we've been chatting more and our memories of it are a little different, which is cool too, because it was a long time ago. And it's like, yeah, oh, there's that, and it's just kind of interesting to see how that does happen to you. But so,
Further ado.
so you know, I'm going to start off by I'm going to start as usual by leaving off a big one, like my Jimi Hendrix or Emmett Smith of the urban legends. This time I'm not even positive on how to say the name. I think it's the Chupacabra or the
I think it's
Chupacabra,
Chupacabra.
which is like, I think it's big in Latin America. It's big in Puerto Rico. When I made my first initial list, it was kind of like somewhere near the top, like on a lot of the lists. So I had it up there. I was like, oh, this has got to be. As I researched it, I just didn't find it that it's like this dog-like creature. So maybe it's a wolf or a fox, but it's also maybe he's been seen as a lizard, like a lizard. He comes and eats the livestock and stuff. Yeah, that stuff happens all the time. So I don't, I just didn't get the creep factor of it. I'm sure it's probably maybe in the telling. If you grew up with it, it's probably really, and listen, it's a top legend. It's up there. It's just like Emmett Smith. Doesn't mean it wasn't great. Although maybe I'm regretting Emmett. He might really have deserved that top 10, 9-ish spot for me. But the Chupacabra is out. The Chupacabra is out. So and at 10, I'm also again shenanigans because at 10 I am having a tie. Having a tie at 10, but there's a reason. There's a reason behind it, right? I've got two oldies but goodies. They almost should be left off the list, I feel like, at this point, but they're just very nostalgic. I'm talking about Sassy, also known as Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and Nessie, also known as the Loch Ness Monster. They're coming in a tie at number 10. When we were kids, they were the two big urban legends.
Especially because there was no internet, right? I mean, a lot of this stuff is going to go back to, just like we did with guitarists and running backs. It's like they move up the ladder if you've seen them live. So, we didn't have the luxury of going to the internet and watching YouTube videos or whatnot. So, like with these legends, everything was absolutely 100% passed down through folklore, through, stories from other people, reading up magazine articles, looking it up in the library. God forbid we went to the library. That's what I think a lot of these legends really, that's where the rubber meets the road on these and gives them a little more life, whether they're alive or not.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I feel like with both of these, and I think this is like there's probably something to this on every one of the lists. I think they're probably both based in some truth. And I actually have a friend who like swears that smart guy, like not a dumb guy. He swears that Bigfoot exists. He's definitely a conspiracy theorist type of guy, but he was like, just watch this video.
Imagine what a Bigfoot would do to your home? Yeah, well, I can. You're good people. I'm going to say this once. I'm going to say it simple. And I hope to God, for your sakes, you all listen. There are no abominable snowmen. There are no Sasquatches. There are no big feet.
And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if, like, at some point, hundreds of years ago, there was still some form of, early man, or also some form of dragon, or Loch Ness monster that was in those Scottish lochs that are like, a mile, 800 feet deep and, 30 miles long. I think there probably was something to it. And then, there wasn't many left. They were becoming extinct. So they're very few and far between. Do they still exist now? I'm going to almost say no, because it seems like you don't really hear about those sightings anymore. Nobody's really getting killed or hurt by either of them. It's just, they're kind of cute. They drive an industry, right? There's T-shirts, there's festivals for both of them. There's like, but I think like there may be some truth behind both of them.
Well, I don't know so much about Bigfoot, but with Loch Ness, the Loch Ness monster, I mean, there's been I don't know how many expeditions out in that lake where, you know, they've done all kinds of sonar testing and night vision cameras and whatnot. And there's some stuff out there that shows that there's something. But at the same time, you don't know if some of this stuff is planted. right? Just to keep the legend going. Me, I'm a big paranormal guy. I love paranormal stuff. I watch all those shows, and there's never really somebody coming out and saying boo, or slamming a door shut. But there's always the potential, like the lead up, So seeing something in the lake that's swimming where you could see a huge distance between what might be, the back hump and the tail. It's bigger than a log, and it's moving kind of serpentine like that. That to me is enough to be, to keep me interested.
All right. Well, number 9. So that's number 10. We got the tie.
Okay.
Right? I topped out. And number 9, another one that like this one was borderline for me, but there's a couple reasons I made it in. One, the greatest college mascot of all time was our college mascot, the Flying Dutchman of Hofstra. We were the Flying Dutch. Why they got rid of that is really, really bothers me. Now we're the Hofstra Pride, which is a cool name. I had no problem with the name now, but the Flying Dutchman was such a good. It was one of the reasons I went to that school. Flying Dutchman, I loved it. And then even like our dorms were named after parts of the Netherlands. For them to just abandon their heritage really bothers me. But there's this. I don't know if you know. I didn't really know much about this, but basically there was this first there was this opera, The Dutchman. It was about a sea captain cursed to sail the seas forever, defying God during a storm, swearing he'd round the Cape of Good Hope. He only can come ashore once every 7 years to seek redemption to love. That legend became tied to, or was born from this captain, Hendrik van der Decken, who swore around the Cape even if it took him till doomsday. He never made it, but many still report to this day seeing his ship around the Cape of Good Hope and in other treacherous waters, a warning to respect the sea.
So educate me. Where's the Cape of Good Hope?
Yeah, Cape of Good Hope is the bottom of Cape Town, South Africa, Cape Peninsula. So that's where he evidently met his demise. And
Very
people still claim to see him. And I guess it's one of those tales to like, for these captains, hey, if there's a storm, this guy didn't make it back.
right.
So, and that's what a lot of these are born from. That's a little bit of a more, that one doesn't hit home as much as the rest because it's so long ago. It's an old one. Neither of us are sailing ships around the Cape of Good Hope. But, I just like the Flying Dutchman tie-in. I had a vent about that. So,
No, that's a good one. It's very Greek mythology.
so
that's it.
going to
That's
number 8.
9. All right, let's go.
Going to number 8, and is a little homage to your Jersey roots. So like we have a little something behind it, but I don't know how much you know about the Jersey. I heard about the Jersey Devil as a kid. I remember someone sent me a postcard, like one of my aunts from New Jersey, but I didn't really know much about the legend. I looked it up just in the last 48 hours. So the Jersey Devil, was born as the 13th child. This is a fact. Supposedly, this part's supposed to be factual. I mean, 13 children. Like you can understand kind of where this happened. But a woman known as Mother Leeds, in 1735, evidently a very fertile woman because this was her 13th child. She's probably sick of having babies at this point, and she made some kind of offhand remark, which in those days you had to be careful what you said, but basically, either cursing the child or saying, "Oh, the 13th child, it's going to be a devil." And then the legend is, it was born a devil and flew off at birth. And there's some stories where it killed some of its own brothers and sisters or something. And the cool thing that I found out was the legend actually grew. The family had already been branded as heretical, like for 50 years or 60 years before that, because the grandfather or the great grandfather, or maybe that child's great grandfather, was one of the first people to publish like a farmer's almanac to help the farmers, plan and seasonal stuff. And, those things are amazing. I don't know if you ever looked at one. It's like how they predict the winter and when to plant, all this stuff. And he was one of the first to publish it. And basically, the Quakers found this to be like
Devil's work.
Yeah, the devil's work. So they were branded already kind of outcasts, even though they were evidently a very religious family trying to have all these children for God, because that's really why you had all those children back then. One, a lot didn't survive. Two, you wanted working hands, but also it was like a religious thing, like more babies for God. So yeah, I mean that's the origin behind it. I find it pretty amazing. And then there's been different times, different outbreaks where there's a lot of sightings. There was one year in 1909 where in 1 week there was over 1,000 sightings, which I don't know what that's about, but they actually closed the schools in Jersey. They formed posses in all the towns to protect the people from this, this devil.
That's crazy. And it's down in the Pine Barrens, which is, if anybody knows New Jersey, it's not just Sopranos lore, but there's literally a
They
place.
buried the people, right?
That's where they went after that Russian guy. But it's just a barren place of pine trees, and there's just a whole lot of nothing going on down there. But back in the day, and I'm talking back in the 1700s day, you know, everyone's religious. That's all they have to go on, right? Just really religion and family and farming. So for this type of thing, again, as a Jersey guy, I'm a little partial to this one, but for this type of thing to not be true, I think I think there's more of a chance that it's more factual than people think. Now, I've never seen it, but there have been, just like UFO sightings and whatnot, there have been people who have seen this thing separately on different occasions and then asked to draw it, and it's very similar. I don't know if there's any legitimacy to that, but I think this is a little bit more towards the factual than the urban legend, which kind of gives me gives me some goosebumps because that's kind of cool. The whole story behind it, right? I mean, you got the people down there who don't do much more than farm and fornicate and read about God, and whether the mother was saying that kind of tongue in cheek or she just really had been fed up. Um, yeah, I think there's an argument that there might be some legitimacy to the fact that if you're that close to God, if you're that close to religion, that something like that could happen. Like Rosemary's Baby, right? Go back to one of our earlier episodes.
Yeah, man. I mean, again, it's like it's become a thing where they have a festival every year, which I'm not going to a festival for a devil, I'll tell you that right now. But they've got a roller coaster at Six Flags. They've got the hockey team. I mean, an NHL hockey team is the New Jersey Devils. I mean, it's these things are, like even speaking about religion, like back in the old days with religion, one of the ways to like bring a lot of wealth to your town, and I'm not saying that's what this is because this is, been going on for hundreds of years, but one of the ways to bring wealth to your towns was like, oh, we have this, statue that bleeds from the eyes. These even become legends. A statue of a Mary that there's blood, a little precursor maybe to something coming. Or, just, we have the rosary, we have the thorns that Jesus, or the cross. We have it in our church here in like this small town in Italy. Millions of people will, go there and to see it. But also, by the way, they're going to stay in the hotels, they're going to buy food, they're going to eat, and it becomes a livelihood for the town. And for this, it's not the livelihood for Jersey. Jersey is one of the richest states in the country, but there is a whole industry. Like you can buy T-shirts, you got a hockey team, you got a roller coaster, they have a festival. There's somebody making money off the Jersey Devil.
The power of Christ compels you.
You think I'm scared to go to hell? Fuck that. I'm from Jersey.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
The Devil makes it to what, number 8?
That was number 8. So going to number 7. Number 7, I never heard of number 7 either. I don't think so. At first, I was like, this one is not making the list. But then as I kind of like read more about it, did some research, I looked at some videos and stuff, it's pretty creepy. I don't know what it is like about rabbits. Like rabbits are cute, man. They're like little bunnies, But there's this guy, the Bunnyman. Have you ever heard of the Bunnyman? Right? I mean, Donnie Darko is one of my favorite movies of all time, like right up there, top 10, 15. The rabbit, Frank the Rabbit, and that is the spooky rabbit, but he's really not bad. But it's like part Donnie Darko, part Mike Myers. What happened was, again, true story, turn of the century, a town called Clifton, Virginia. There was an asylum inmate escape, just like Mike Myers in Halloween, right? And this guy who escaped, he had killed his entire family. I don't know if this part of it's true, but the legend has morphed into that he killed his entire family on Easter Sunday. And he was crazy, so they put him in asylum. I mean, I think back then they kill you for that, but whatever. He flees into the woods, gets away. He's never found. And that was the story, and it was something that went on forever. And at some point, he was surviving in the woods, and they were finding these hung rabbits too. So, people who would go into those woods and see that were freaked out, and they thought it was him. That was like the first part of the story. Then in the 1970s, all of a sudden, there are police reports where a man in a rabbit attacked several people in the area around this bridge called Colchester Overpass. And people go there all the time now. He was being very protective of the area. So if you parked your car there, he's actually attacked one couple with an axe, smashed their window. They got away. Nobody died from this guy, but the couple times he was seen wielding an axe in the area multiple times in a rabbit suit. So it became a big thing. It went viral. People claim he's still there. Now they're finding rabbits hanging from the bridge all the time. Is the rabbit
Right.
man back? The Bunnyman, he's called.
Bunnyman, not the Bugs Bunny man. This one's tough for me because I think there's a lot of copycat potential here. Like I'm sure we're going to talk about kind of a sneak peek, but I don't know. This one seems a little bit more far-fetched. Unfortunately, people murder people all the time for no reason. So I don't doubt that part of the legend is true. But to connect the whole rabbit thing with it just so happened to be he killed everybody on Easter, I think that's where the legend started to grow some legs. People started to take some liberties with, well, this guy killed him on Easter. You know what? He killed him. He stabbed him with rabbit's feet, like, so.
And again,
The
big
fact
money
that he
maker.
made it. Yeah. Big money maker, right?
If you go to this town in Virginia, it's Fairfax, Virginia, so it's like, not far from DC. Clifton is the name of the town. There's actually a Bunnyman brewery. And there's on the beer can and on the, there's the Bunnyman with his axe. So they're like celebrating this killer. We talked about doing top 10 killers and we decided not to because we don't want to like celebrate these guys, but they're making a fortune off a guy that's alleged to have wiped out his family. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And there's a Bunnyman movie and everything. The Bunnyman movie, it's kind of like one of these B movies, but there was 3 of them. So it's a trilogy. And the funny thing about that is the girl, I watched the opening scene, and the woman in the opening scene is this woman, Maria Olsen, who is in like over 200 horror movies, but she was actually in my film Ghost of the Graveyard. She played the witch in my film, so she plays the bus driver in this. And the bunny gets on this school bus and like attacks her and all these children. It's pretty sick. He's not like the Frank bunny. It's like the Easter bunny outfit this guy wears, but he's got a chainsaw.
Right.
It's
All right.
great.
You got me.
That is your type of movie.
What are we up to? 6?
Number 6, we've got, this one was turned into a pretty big movie too, but I never saw the movie. I watched a lot of clips of it the last few days. It looks pretty good. Now I'm like definitely going to gear in. Little hint there. Richard Gere stars in it. It's called The Mothman Prophecies.
Yes.
So there's this urban legend of this Mothman. I actually kind of like this. I really like this one. I know like how these things change. Like you said, okay, how the Easter thing changed. I feel like this is one of the ones where it changed to make it spookier, but maybe it's not quite as spooky as it is. So they've described seeing at some point in this town, this happened in West Virginia. So it's a real place. These things really happen. A place called Point Pleasant, West Virginia. They started seeing this 6 to 7 foot human-like creature described as a moth-like creature with these red eyes. So sometimes when I hear this stuff and I look at descriptions in the Bibles of old things, I wonder what they're really seeing. When they follow the star, what were they really seeing? When they saw these angels, what were they really seeing? Like this almost sounds to me like an angel, other than the red eyes. Maybe like the face mask it's wearing has red, some lights, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe angels do have red eyes, but I feel like sometimes they make these things a little scarier because the thing about this Mothman is he never hurt anybody. No one ever got killed. He never, killed rabbits. What he did was he was seen around this bridge in this area in this town. And then at some point in the true story, not what happens in the movie, the bridge collapsed in 1967, killing 46 people. And the Mothman wasn't seen again after that. So going up to it, there was this frenzy of people seeing this Mothman, and there was this huge disaster. And then supposedly, and this is again, this might be one of the things where it's morphed and changed, and people are claiming, but supposedly there was a similar creature seen in Chernobyl right before that happened, not after it happened, and the same thing with 9/11. I never really heard the 9/11 part, but that's what I read. I'm inclined to believe that, like, if it's true that it's actually was maybe some kind of angelic type creature sent here to maybe try to warn the people.
Interesting take. So I'm glad to hear you say, first of all, that Mothman made it. And I like your take in the sense that you're looking at from a, you know, eyes wide open perspective. You didn't see the movie. I highly recommend it. I've seen it probably 5 times, and
Looks great.
I'm not even a Richard Gere fan, but he's really, really good in this movie. And now that I hear you say it without having any of the knowledge of the movie, gives me a little bit of. I had always taken away when I hear Mothman that it was a evil type of thing until you just brought this up, which was kind of a, precursor to something bad happening, or like you said, it was some sort of angelic or some sort of sign or signal or what have you. The only thing that I'll say about this, and I don't know how many liberties they took with the movie itself from the actual legend, but um, this had been going on for a while before the whole bridge collapse. And the bridge collapse thing was, I think they took some liberties in the movie, but this is like a real thing. This is not like the Jersey Devil or Bigfoot or what have you, where you got people that say they saw it, but no one's got proof. People died. I mean, this bridge literally just collapsed, right? And it could be something as simple as bad engineering.
There were hundreds of sightings
Right.
leading up to it.
Right. Exactly. And the people, again, like where they interviewed these people individually, everybody had the same type of description and, that drew the same type of thing. And there's one other theory in that this was an alien type of interaction where, it could have been a UFO this whole time or, an alien or whatever, what have you. So out of all of the urban legends, I think the Mothman is the one that's like the realest, that's got the most history and the most proof, but it's still unknown. It's crazy, right? Like you've got this incident, you've got these deaths, you've got these sightings from hundreds of people. You've got it pinpointed down to an actual geography, and yet there's still unknowns. Like the thing just disappears. It's like crop circles, right? Like why do these things just happen and then they stop happening?
Okay, you got my attention. Where's my watch?
In your shoe. Under the bed.
51.
I can smile beneath your whispering lips.
Something's interacting with the climate, so good one. I like them.
Yeah, so let me throw you like a huge curveball. This is like a whole nother, podcast. We can dive into this stuff. When I talk about angels, I honestly, I don't know that what exactly an angel is or an alien. I mean, alien, these are just words, right? So alien just means like foreign to us, like it's just like an illegal alien or whatever. We use it to creatures from outer space, people that we assume aren't from the earth. Well, that's what an angel is. I mean, angel is the same thing. So I almost look at them as interchangeable. Like to me, and if you again, I mentioned this, if you look at descriptions of the Bible, a lot of the interactions with angels can almost be considered looked at as alien encounters with a higher, being of greater knowledge than us. If that's the case, I think that's like, it's very plausible that I wouldn't say plausible, but it's possible that there was some kind of being there trying in some way to warn people. I mean, the movie I'm sure takes massive liberties, and I think probably departs because so let's face it, it's a better movie if it's an evil entity. So if I've got, if you take the facts of the case and then you definitely have to push it that way. If it's just an angel trying to help everybody, it becomes, Highway to Heaven or something. Like it's great, but but anyway, man, yeah. And dude, and to go back to our point, like, if you go to that town now, there's a 12-foot statue of the Mothman in the middle of town, and they have a festival every year. So if you're into this stuff, man, you can go celebrate the Mothman. You can drink on your way there, through Virginia, you can get your rabbit beer, your Bunnyman beer, and you can freaking go to the festival of the Mothman in West Virginia. So there's a lot of stuff going on in that little New Jersey, Virginia, West Virginia corridor. All right, man.
Devil's Workshop.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so number five. Number five is another one when it's kind of freaked me out a little bit when I never heard this one. It's a variation of kind of some that maybe, yeah, I never heard this version. It's got a huge creep factor. It's kind of the killer in the house trope that we've seen in a lot of movies and stuff. You've seen it in Scream. We highlighted Scream in our top 10 movie deaths. In the movie The Stranger Calls, which freaked me out as a kid, and it was Carol King, I think, right? Was it Carol King?
Carol Kane.
She's like young, she's the babysitter, and they start calling the house, and there's all hangups, just like in Scream. But eventually he gets more and more forceful. And then, he says, did you check the children?
Ah,
And then
goosebumps.
it's really drawn out. It's like a 10-minute scene. And then eventually she's on with the police. And I don't know how all of a sudden the police are like, and it's like her second or third call to police. He's like, we traced the call. He's in the house.
It's
Like as a
coming
kid,
from in the house.
what? I was like, I think I ran out of the room when I saw that scene.
Yeah, no doubt.
My house.
No doubt. Because that's 1970, probably maybe eight,
Came out. Yeah, I mean,
maybe 80.
maybe around 80. So it's one of those.
Is that number 5?
That's not number 5. That was just, it's that type of tale. That's what it
Okay.
reminded me of.
All right.
It's like also that friend of a friend tale, but here's the version that's been around since the 50s. I never heard of it. It's called the licked hand. And this is like big with the young kids now, or it's on the internet, TikTok and stuff.
Like licked?
Yeah. So it's the story's told, and I had never heard this before. Told to my daughters, they were a little like weirded out by it, honestly. But it's a young girl, sometimes described as a college student, sometimes described as like an 11, 12-year-old girl. She's home alone at night, just like that. It's the stranger in the house thing. She's feeling uneasy because she either heard like on the radio or the news or whatever that, again, a local asylum patient. So it's not just like a murderer in the area. It's a crazy person, asylum killer on the loose. Lock your doors. And she's got her dog to keep her comfort. And I guess she has this thing where the dog is there somewhere. The dog's like licking her or something. And then as she tries to sleep, she hears a sound and she investigates, and she's, nervous, and she kind of like pets the dog. He's laying under her bed, pets the dog, and he's licking her hand, like to reassure her. And again, she hears, and then at some point she hears something again, another time. So she gets up, she goes to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, she finds her dog dead. There's like grosser versions of it, but I'll leave it at that. And then there's 2 ways it ends. Either on the mirror written in blood is humans can lick too, or there's another version where she's got her hand under the bed. Again, and she's like petting her dog and licking it. And then she looks in her mirror and she sees this crazy guy under the bed licking her hand.
That's crazy.
So that is number 5. An unknown to me makes it all the way up to number 5, the licked hand.
Bro, I got 2 options. So is that a movie? Yeah.
It's not a movie. We should make a movie.
Dude, let's do it.
Yeah.
But what would be even creepier is, she thinks she's getting licked by the dog, and then she looks in the mirror and sees the dog on the bed with her, like sleeping between her legs or something.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. She
Bro.
thinks that's great. That's the kind of stuff we need, man. That's excellent. I love that. I just tightened that scene up 100 times. Never been told that way before. Yeah, it's actually already on you. And then you're like, wait a minute. How can you be here if you're under there?
Right. And what's under there?
And it's panting and stuff. But it's pretty sick. And there's versions.
And then you hear
the one where it's under the bed, when she sees under the bed, the guy kind of like cackles at her when she sees it, I mean, it's like a short. There's like a lot of these, there's like 1 million shorts on YouTube, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I took some of the best ones. I'm going to put it in the playlist. So I'll weed them out for you. But there's a lot of bad ones. But I took a couple of the better ones. Some of them are pretty damn good, man. You get a kick out of
That's great. We could do a short as well. But what's interesting about this one is, and I like the creep factor on this. The unknown is always creepy, but this one you could just be. I had never heard it before 5 minutes ago, and you brought it up, and I've got the creep factor going, and you can already tell that it's grown legs over time. Whether, first of all, is it true? Whatever. But second of all, it's got different endings, right? It's got different cadences throughout the entire legend, which is what makes it a legend versus your preamble about when a stranger calls. It is the way it is. You see her face when she's on the phone with the cops, and they say the call's coming from inside the house. And I think I actually saw it in the theater. And I remember just like that whole gasp, like that's not legend, right? Even though who knows if that ever happened in real life, God forbid. But, the fact that that is the way it happened in that movie, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's the way it happened. With this licked legend, the licked hand, which is so funny. I think people are taking a little bit of liberty and thinking of different ways, just like you and I just did, right?
it. And a lot of these do.
Yeah.
A lot of these have multiple endings or multiple versions. They get skewed and changed. I kind of left a lot of it out, but a lot of these have versions that involve the internet, or which I didn't find as scary. You're watching this video, and if you watch this video, like all of a sudden there's the one in the red room, and you're watching this video, and then if you hear this word, you all of a sudden you're in a red room and you're gonna die. Like, I don't know. But it's interesting how they do morph and they change. And listen, like you just changed that, you just made it better by having the dog in the bed. That's gonna, I bet you, dude, I bet you in 10 years, just because of this video now, that's how the story's gonna be. Because it's kind of weird putting your hand under the bed. I guess, maybe she goes down to pat it. I don't know. But yeah, man,
Different.
it's a good one, man. And I
That's a
never
good
heard
one.
of it either. And yeah, I
That's a
put it
good
all
one.
to 5 because yeah, creepy.
All right.
But
That's
it's
a good
not as
one.
creepy as number 4.
All right, let's go.
This one, dude, this one. So in 1891, the Ouija board.
Love the old ones.
The Ouija board was invented.
Oh man.
So we just stop there. I don't even want to talk about this. This is scary. And I have like real life shit that happened to me with this. But
I remember you telling me about that stuff at school.
yes, 1970. So in the 70s, like a lot of them, for some reason in the 70s, a lot of these things kind of blew up. Almost, I saw that pattern. Like all of a sudden, the 70s, these legends became very, the kids spread around. So I don't know, it was something with our generation that we were able to talk
Hippies.
about that stuff and spread this stuff around. But in 73, one of the films that you featured for the best, oh no, you had The Omen, but we started talking about The Exorcist. But still, in 73, in The Exorcist, Reagan, this Ouija board in her basement, and she F's around with it. And next thing you know, she's possessed by the devil, and freaking there's priests getting thrown out the window and shit. And it's like the scariest movie of all time. Like a lot of these legends, it's a cautionary tale. Don't fuck around with things that you don't know about. Don't fuck around with the occult, with the devil, with these things that can channel different meanings. They can attach themselves to you. I mean, I believe that shit. Like, I believe that it's
I know you do.
real, that, you can open yourself up to it. But for some reason, when I was a kid, we had a fucking Ouija board. And my sister and her friends would play with it. And, it's kind of stupid too. Like, you're putting your hands on it and you're like, am I moving it? Is she moving it? But it's spelling out words. You're not fighting each other. It spells out real words. So, they'd have sleepovers, but the Ouija board, and the thing is, don't mess with the unknown. It's one of those things that, it's an urban legend that to me, it's not just a legend. I'm telling you, people, don't go out and buy one now after hearing it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of reality. There's a lot of validity to that stuff. I've had a few experiences with that type of thing, whether it was a traditional Ouija board or something similar. Like I mentioned before, I'm into paranormal activity and stuff like that. So, but I also know that I'm a novice when it comes to that, so I don't really mess around. I'm more of an observer, and I respect it. And I respect if it is the dead or the unliving or what have you. You know, I respect that. I respect those people. But at the same time, I'm very intrigued by it. Very. Wish I had kind of gone down a little bit of a different path and been more of an investigator in that regard. But I don't know if you remember when we were at school, we talked about this. And I was in this, I was taking a class. I don't remember the name of it, but it was something around mythology, or it wasn't demonology, but it was like something in that, you know, it discussed that stuff.
Came up.
And I brought home a book that I found in the school library. I don't know if you remember this. And this is when you told me about your story with your sister and your experiences there. And we were talking about it, and we were both kind of freaking each other out. And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the next morning, I don't know if you remember, but in the common area, the book was on the table, and it was a little bent. Like the book was bent. You brought it into me, and you're like, get this thing out of here. And I brought it back that day. Like, I brought it back to the library that day.
Yeah, man.
I was freaked out, man.
I was really nervous about that stuff back then. I still, like you said, I respect it. Yeah, we had I mean, it doesn't even sound that scary, but basically me and my sisters, I can't remember exactly. You might even remember it. I don't remember exactly what we were asking it, but we asked it something to give us like a sign, and our phone it didn't start ringing. It didn't ring like ring, ring, because we had the phone on the wall back.
Yeah, the rotary phone, yeah. Yeah.
It never did it before. It never did it since while we were playing the Ouija board. That thing was in the incinerator that night. Like, we got rid of it. But I remember being freaked out. I just remember other like stuff with that. I was always afraid of it. It might have been like the one time I did it and that happened. Maybe I'm a channel or something, and I don't want to be one. My sisters used to play with her girlfriends would come over for sleepovers, and they play it, and the phone never rang. None of that shit ever happened. One time I get involved, there was all. So I was like, But yeah, that's some scary shit. So number 4.
The Ouija board. Let's move on, man. I'm getting creeped out.
All right, so we get up. This one creeps me out, man. This dude, this is scary. This is scary. Number 3. We've come a long way. You can see why Loch Ness and Sassy and Nessie are nowhere near the top. At number 3, we got the Slenderman.
Ugh.
Right? Yeah, have you seen pictures of this guy? He is scary. He's tall. These long freaking arms. You always see him like, kind of reminds me a little bit of Freddy Krueger, but like even scarier in some ways. You know, it doesn't have
Right.
and here's the story. Here's like kind of the background. It started as this guy drew this fictional character. But, just because it was fictional doesn't mean, like, again, can something attach itself to this fictional thing? So this guy drew this fictional character. He posted it online. So this is birthed out of the modern age. And he wrote, this guy's name was Victor Surge. It might have been his name, but he wrote along with the picture, "We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them. But its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us." The person that's saying this about the creature, they didn't want to go, they didn't want to kill them, but it's silence. I guess he doesn't say anything. It's outstretched arms, these long arms, horrified them, but also somehow comforted them. And then from that, this legend grew, and he was seen by children and teen, lurking in the woods, lurking in dark alleys, in the cities even, and stuff like that. But what really makes this story horrifying is there was these 2 girls. I want to say they were in Wisconsin, and they killed one of their schoolmates in 2014, and they claimed under oath to the police. These are young girls. These like 12, 13-year-old girls. They claimed under oath, their defense was Slenderman told them to do it. And once that came out, Slenderman was never going away. This is all, you can look up the files of the courts and everything. There's a bunch of other stuff with him out there. If you see him, these things happen to him. It's like that, to me, is the horrifying part of the story, and why I think number 3 on the urban legend list.
That's when I hear Slenderman, I think Mothman because I still have Mothman as a villain in my brain, even though I said before I'm kind of on the fence. But with Slenderman, now I start to think about, you know, I I guess when all these urban legends start, like even back in the 1700s and the 1800s, they start and people think something at that moment, right? Like, oh, this is just, Jim Bob making up a story or something. Here, you got Slenderman in the 21st century. The internet changes everything. You've got two young kids who, swear on their, on the Bible or something, some other entity told them to do it. It's either, the internet's either educated us enough to make those types of life-changing decisions in life, or it's truly the way it happened. You know what I mean? Like, were these two just so naive that, hey, this is our story, we're sticking to it? Or did this thing really happen? And that's what's frightening, right? Like, this is like the Candyman series, like, was that true? Like, what's going on with that? So I think Slenderman is our generation's beginning of folklore, of that urban legend. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Of course, we'll be gone, but in 100 years, what people are saying about Slenderman.
Probably be around. I bet you he'd be around, but we'll see. We'll see. All right.
All right. Number
Yeah,
two.
that's a scary one, man. I don't know. Takes us to number two. Number two is a classic. It's got a creep factor. It's not as like frightening as the last two, but it's got a creep factor. Again, this is another one where there's a ton of stuff on TV. I'll get to in a second, like where they've done versions of it and in the movies even. But it's the dead girl, usually, or sometimes guy, but it's usually the dead girl car ride. A lot of times they get dropped at the cemetery. But the story is basically this. This is the basic story, and there's a lot of versions, but like this is one of the ones where it's morphs a million things. But the guy picks up the girl hitchhiking, or she's broken down, or something like that. He brings her to the home. She leaves something in the car, like maybe a scarf or something, and then um, she goes to the home, and he realizes it. Oh, she forgot her scarf. Go and knocks on the door, and the parents answer. Oh, he's like, oh, I just dropped off, your daughter. She left her scarf in my car. Our daughter's been dead for 2 years. How could you say that? And he's like, well, she just left a scarf. And they go and show him the picture, and it's the same girl. And where'd you pick him up? It's the spot where she was killed and all this stuff. And there's a version where she dropped cemetery. There's a bunch of different versions. That was the one I thought was the best version. So you remember Kojak, Telly Savalas. This guy was a huge star, and he went on some talk show. I think it was in Europe though, but he went on some talk show, and he tells the story, and he swears them down as true. And it was before he was famous, and he was doing some work, and he was in Long Island. I think he lived in Queens or something. But he had a gas. He was like screwed. He had a job he had to get to. Some guy, gave him money for the gas. Telly said, "Hey, look, I don't have any money on me, but I'll pay you back." Blah blah blah. He insisted. The guy was like, "No, no, no, don't worry about it." But he insisted. The guy had like a weird voice, could barely get his voice out. It was very high pitched. He called it an effeminate voice. That's how Telly's described it. And he, eventually got the address from the guy. And then the guy went off. He got his gas. He went and did his thing. Then, like a week later, he went to the house. He swears this is true. And he said he went to the house, and again, a woman answers the door, and he says, "Hey, your husband picked me up and gave me money for gas, whatever. I just want to return it and stuff." And she's like, "Same thing. My husband's been dead for, this many years." And they described the car. It was the car that matched. And
God.
then evidently the guy killed himself by like shooting himself in the neck, which is why he had a hard time talking, supposedly. So again, it's another version. It's a version of that story, but Telly Savalas tells it like it happened to him. And it's the kind of thing, like, why would he was telling this as a famous person, like, why would he, make something up like that? Sometimes you just believe, like, he was in a spot, and this guy spirit for some reason was still here, and he helped him. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And, the ones that are unprompted and, people need, they have they want to share a story because it's something that impacted their life and they're not gaining anything from it. Where some of these urban legends you might argue are to drum up business, like who goes to Point Pleasant, West Virginia? I don't think the whole town was in on the Mothman thing to drum up business, but who knows? But like with something like this where the person's unprompted and they have this type of experience is, I don't know, it's harder to find a reason why they would be making this shit up versus, you know, that this is way before the internet. Telly Savalas is a 70s guy, right? You know, this wasn't a tabloid thing. I know that I've been to a medium a couple of times in a group setting.
Really?
And my experience was profound. We should probably do an episode on that because we could do it with the Amityville horror conversation and the story about that book. I'll never forget that. I'm surprised you don't remember, man, when that thing was bending and it was.
I don't remember, man, but you know,
we were drinking every night, so
yeah, it's a whole part. But that's yeah. I mean,
that's this type of stuff. That's a good one to put up in the top 3, definitely.
I'm glad it's midday right now because if it was 9 o'clock at night, I'd be freaked out. You know, this, you know, again, it's another one with the moral, picking up strangers, but no one really gets hurt in either of those stories. The cool thing about it too, I just want to mention, there's like a lot of good versions of this online. So there's Dead End, which is just a movie that's kind of plays on this trip a little bit. There's The Hitcher, which was big when we were in high school again, which again, it's not really related, but you know, the dangers he picks up, does a good deed, and picks up a hitchhiker and freaking
Rutger Hauer, right?
All hell breaks loose.
I almost picked that movie scene. Remember when Rutger Hauer puts the girl chains her between 2 trucks and just pulls her apart?
Yeah. I mean, Rutger Hauer was sick in that.
Yeah, he was sick.
And who was the lead guy? He was a pretty big star too.
Yeah, what was his? He's got that face.
Thomas Howell.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And he was really good in that, man. It was a good movie. Like it didn't. I saw that. I think that was one I saw in the movies, and it was a really good. That was a really good one.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's go.
Well, wait. I just want to mention. I want to mention too. Twilight Zone. There's a Twilight Zone episode we're checking out, and we'll put a link to all this into our playlist below. But there's a Twilight Zone episode. Check that out. It's a hitchhiker. She keeps appearing on her journey multiple times.
Yeah. The old Twilight Zone.
The
old
black and
Twilight
white. Zone.
Yeah.
The show. And I think Hitchcock directed this one too.
And he's going my way.
Yeah.
That creepy.
Is that it? I think that is it.
Going my way.
I think that's it. You remember that one?
Yeah.
And he's basically gotten her to the afterlife. So pretty crazy. And then Highway to Heaven, I mentioned that earlier. It's like a lot of that was him hitchhiking and then helping people that were picking him up along the way. So anyway,
did you see that light?
I saw it looked like a person. I'm not kidding.
Dude, I'm in the basement. There's nobody down here.
Dude, there was something.
Dude.
I thought somebody came in. I was like, oh shoot, so they ruined the shot.
Dude, I am freaked out right now.
I'm watching. I got your back, dude. I'm watching your back. That is crazy, dude. Dude, I think we're finally going viral because
I can hear Lisa upstairs. I'm like sweating right now.
Dude, what is that? There's like a window there?
No, it's just a opening.
To what? To another room?
Yeah, just to the other side.
Dude,
if I unblur this,
I mean,
holy shit.
I'll watch your back.
Dude.
If I see something again, I'll tell you. Turn around, Tone. They're coming for you.
Don't say that shit.
We're up to number 1, brother. 1 to go.
I am freaked out right now.
Oh, this is internet gold right now. This is it. We're finally going to be viral. All right. Number 1. Feature on Supernatural, which I've never seen that show, but evidently has a huge following with the younger generation. Featured on the X-Files. Turned into recently a Lady Gaga song, or maybe not so recently. Rift in the Candyman. You mentioned the Candyman earlier. Rift by the Candyman. I know it's probably my favorite Hair of the Dog recipe. Number 1, coming in at number 1 at the top of the charts. We have the one, the only Bloody Mary.
She is.
Bloody Mary. Don't say it 3
Don't
times,
say it
brother.
3 times,
You do
man.
not want to go there. Do you ever see the Biggie?
Somebody did.
I'm telling you, if that was a mirror, I thought so. I was like, oh, I was like, we're making a podcast here. What are they doing?
You're gonna have to when you play that back, you got to post that because
Yeah.
you could
yeah,
see.
I mean,
I went like this.
you heard something?
No, I saw it.
You saw it.
I
Yeah.
saw it in my
Yeah.
preview.
I don't know, brother. Yeah.
All right.
All right, so let me just talk a little bit about it. Let's do some of the background. This is like this is a great one. Everyone knows Bloody Mary. The cool thing, there's a lot of cool stuff about this. One, this thing goes all fables are often cautionary tales. The mirror on the wall. I mean, it really goes back to that. This mirror thing. There was also there's this thing that women did in the 1700s and the 1800s where they would take a mirror and a candle. They'd either walk backwards or they would do different things, but same thing, darkened room, and they would see the face that they would see would be their future husband. But if they didn't, if they saw a skeleton, it meant they would never marry. God forbid, like back in those days. Now nobody cares, but back then, you needed some. It's a whole thing. The name is possibly tied to Mary Worth, a witch executed in the 1800s, but more likely tied to Mary, Queen of Scots, also known as Queen Mary I, who executed hundreds of Protestant people, therefore earning the nickname amongst the Protestants, Bloody Mary. And in Japan, they have a similar legend, Hanako-san, who haunts school bathrooms. Maybe started to keep the kids out of the bathrooms from doing like American kids, smoking in the boys' room, right? But that's the Japanese legend. And then, we and me were talking about this earlier, but South Park, the guy summoned Biggie Smalls by saying Biggie Smalls 3 times in the mirror. I never was a big South Park guy. Like, I liked it. It was just one of those things. I never got to it. I was watching. I mean, it's hysterical. It's really politically incorrect, but it's really funny.
Okay, you just look in the mirror and say the name 3 times. Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls. See, you're scared because if you say it a 3rd time, he's gonna show up and shoot you in the face.
And again, it's another one I remember when I was a kid. My sister and her friends would have sleepovers, and they would go in the bathroom one at a time. I didn't dare do it. I was scared straightless. They were a little older than me, but I was scared to death. But they would go in there and with a candle in the dark and say it 3 times and stare at it until you can't look away. I guess the legend is if you look away, she could get your soul, or she might drag you in the mirror, or she'll scratch your face or whatever, or put a demon on you. But so the point is you have to keep staring at her. And if you keep staring, she will appear. And, people have been doing it for years. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's actually, and this is, I think, really cool. Bloody Mary, of all these on the top 10 list, is real.
Really?
It's real, dude. If you look in a mirror in the dark with a candle and say it 3 times, you don't have to say it 3 times. If you just stare in a mirror in the dark, you will see her. It's a scientific thing. It's known as dissociative identity effect. So I hate to ruin it for everybody, but it's a real thing and they did this test where they put like a 25-watt bulb. So it's not, that's pretty low, but it's not nothing. And if you take a 25-watt bulb and you just stare at yourself in the mirror, at your own image where you can see yourself, your face will start to change eventually before your own eyes. Either, your face might deform into something more evil or even not evil, but a lot of times it'll deform. The way our faces are created, if you just change it a little bit, it becomes scary. If you just move your nose away, it's scary. So as soon as it deforms, you see this scary image. Some people, in this experiment, people saw, an old person, or they saw, an unrecognizable creature. If you're expecting to see Bloody Mary, you might see a woman. You know what I mean?
Right.
If that's your
Right.
expectation, the mind is powerful. So it really actually works.
That's crazy.
Now, if you're going to throw Bloody Mary's name in there too, I would advise you not to personally, but I'm a chicken shit. But if you do that, you open yourself up to these channels like the Ouija board channel, maybe not, but it is fun to do this stuff. But at number one,
Bloody Mary times 3.
straight, we won't say
You're a chicken shit. Here's the guy who made Ghost in the Graveyard. Well, I think so. This one, when we talk about like the scientific explanation, there's a lot of these things that come up on social where it's like stare at this dot and it's like a purple dot, and then go look at something on the wall and you see a picture of a person. Like there's science there. There's going on with the eyes and the brain and stuff. But one just came up a few days ago, maybe even last week, where it was 2 images of people's faces just rifling through, just like different people's faces, and you could see them. And if you looked at them, they were normal, like me and you, like they're just normal faces. But if you looked in the mirror in the middle, they were horrifying. Like, but then if you looked real quick back to see if they changed it, they were normal. So there's something scientific there that's actually really cool if you could intentionally play tricks on your own mind. But with the Bloody Mary, that's been going on for years. I remember my kids would do that, and they'd go in the basement and have a sleepover or whatever, and you hear them doing it and screaming and yelling and running upstairs. I think it's more of like you're playing tricks on your own mind. You're fucking with yourself. Sorry, kids.
The fun of it. That is the fun of it.
it.
Like as a group, like all freaking yourselves out together.
I just gotta unblur this.
In the South Park episode, like they're all, let's do this. But then when it comes to actually saying it 3 times, they're all like chicken shit.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all chicken shit. One of them craps his pants. Then Biggie Smalls does appear.
Come on.
He does appear. And he starts blowing people's heads off. What's happening?
No,
Bloody Mary's gonna blow. We said she's scientific. She does not like this.
That is, well, no, that was me. That was me, everybody. But what I was trying to do is unblur this so I could show you what's actually back here. But I don't know. Why can't I unblur the background?
I mean, I don't, at this point, I don't want an explanation. I want to believe that. What were we talking about at that point? We were talking about the visitors, right? The strangers.
Yeah.
Maybe there's somebody,
Don't even, man. Yeah, but I want to show it because what's going to happen is people are going to be like, that was fake. He set it up and it's blurry. But I don't know. How do you do?
I mean, they can say what they want, man. There's no way, brother. That was
crazy.
So that's our
you can't.
10,
it says you can't change visual effects while you're recording.
Okay.
You folks are going to have to believe. Back there it's just an opening to another room, and there's nobody over there.
I can't wait to watch the playback.
You could see it because I was like, what the fuck? I don't know, man.
Tell me, maybe it was just Lisa poking her head in.
No, because I could hear her on the phone upstairs.
Okay.
She's working upstairs, and there's nobody else here.
Well, evidently there's somebody else there, brother. So you better.
Why are you going to do that? It's the lick. It's the hand lick.
Well, thank you. All right, man. Well,
there it is.
There it is. Top 10 urban legends.
Don't forget to subscribe, please. It means a lot to us. We appreciate everyone watching.
Spread the word. We'll keep bringing you more content. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching.
See ya.
Peace. You remember that one?
Yeah.
He's basically gotten her to the afterlife. So, pretty crazy. And then Highway to Heaven, I mentioned that earlier. It's like a lot of that. Remember that one? Yeah. He's basically gotten her to the afterlife. So, pretty crazy. And then Highway to Heaven, I mentioned that earlier. It's like a lot of that. I am so freaked out right now. Editing the video for our urban legends, doing the part about the Ouija board in the basement, talking about the scene in The Exorcist, and freaking there's priests getting thrown out the window and shit, and it's like the scariest movie of all time. Like a lot of these possessed by the devil, and freaking there's a priest getting thrown out the window and shit, and it's like the scariest movie of all.
What the fuck? I am so freaked out right now. Editing the video for our Urban Legends, doing the part about the Ouija board in the basement, talking about the scene in The Exorcist.
And freaking there's a priest getting thrown out the window and shit, and it's like the scariest movie of all time. Like a lot of these. Possessed by the devil, and freaking there's a priest getting thrown out the window and shit, and it's like the scariest movie of all.
What the fuck?
You're an animal.
And they were roommates.
Oh my God, they were roommates.